I recreated this famous scene from Stranger Things. Stick around to the end to see how I did it.
Okay, honey. Okay, baby. Okay. All right, I need you to talk to me now, okay? Are you here? Oh, good, that's so good, babe. Okay, yes. All right, I want you to blink once for yes and twice for no. Can you do that for me, honey? Good, that's so good, baby. Okay. Are you mad at me? Oh, okay. Shit. All right, okay, well, was it something I did? Was it something I didn't do? Was it something I said? Okay, great. Shit, okay, it was something I said. I know how sensitive you can be sometimes, so I gotta ask, don't get mad. Are you on your period? Oh, no. I'm sorry. I take it back. Let's start over. You're mad at me because of something that I said. Is that correct? Good. That's so good. You're doing so good, honey. You know, I'm not really good with puzzles. Can you just give me a hint as to what I said that got you so angry with me? Oh, come on, honey. Just tell me where you are and maybe we can talk face to face, okay? I hate doing this. Honey! Oh. Okay, talk to me, honey. Where are you? R. Good. That's so good, honey. I-G-H-T-H-E-R-E. I don't know what that means, honey. Just tell me. What did I say? Charlotte, enough of these games. Just tell me what to do. Tell me what I need to do to make it up to you, please. You know what? Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching that. If you're new here, I'm Mike. I'm an actor, content creator, and director from Toronto, and the purpose of this series is to recreate famous scenes from movies and TV, and to add a fun spin to them as well. So if this interests you, please subscribe, stay a while. I am by no means an expert or anything. I just like to make cool videos, and I love movies, and I like learning as I go. Hopefully, maybe I can inspire one of you to act on what you're passionate about as well. This month marks the end of Stranger Things, 10 years in the making. If you haven't seen it, Stranger Things follows a group of kids in a small town in the 1980s as they uncover a secret government experiment and discover a terrifying parallel universe while searching for their missing friend, Will. From the beginning, I was drawn to Stranger Things for a few different reasons. Firstly, it centered around a group of 12-year-old actors that blew me away with their performances. They were so talented and so invested in the drama. Secondly, there was something so tactile and so nostalgic about the show. Watching the fun and freedom these kids had, biking around without the permission of their parents, brought back a lot of feelings for me as a kid when I used to do that. At a time when AI was just starting, this show felt so real. The way they created the opening sequence, even using more practical effects than CGI, paying homage to how movies were made in the 80s. And thirdly, it was the music, cinematography, and the themes of the show. While it centered around kids, the show itself was quite dark. I'm sad it's over, and I thought it could be kind of fun to recreate a scene from this, so I started digging. For me, I don't just recreate the shots, I write an original scene and I also act in it. So I always need to make sure that I have an idea that resonates with people and is also funny. Sometimes I look at a scene and the challenge excites me, but I can't think of an idea right away, and so I just move on from it. But in this case, it came immediately. Most of my comedy sketches revolve around relationship humor, so that was the angle I wanted to approach this with. I think if you ask anyone what the most famous scene from the show is, it would probably be in season 1, episode 3, when Joyce talks to Will through the lights. When I rewatched it, the idea came to me instantly. Trying to figure out why your wife or girlfriend is mad at you. So I wrote the script fairly quickly, and then I got into the fun part, which was, how the heck am I gonna shoot this? And I do this all on my own, by the way, too. There's no one helping me here. That being said, like, if you wanna join my team, message me. If you're an editor or DP, like, come on, come hang out. I'm pretty fun. When I'm in pre-production, I always love to use Milanote and ShotDeck. ShotDeck is a wonderful resource to help with storyboarding. It's got thousands of stills from movies and TV. I always use that website. It is incredible. I will download those photos and put them into my storyboarding app, which is Milanote, the best storyboarding tool out there, in my opinion. This is not sponsored. I just love these tools deeply and I use them myself. At first, my plan was only to shoot the first half of the scene because it was a lot to take on. But then I thought to myself, you can't just not do the iconic couch letter shot. You have to do it. I love Christmas, so I had no shortage of twinkle lights. I just had to figure out how to make myself look like I was in a cupboard. And then I also had to figure out how to take my white walls and turn them into that. I broke this up into two parts. Part one is just me in the cupboard lying there with a bundle of twinkle lights, and part two was the letter wall sequence. So now we have our plan, we have our script, we have our props, so it's time to set up and shoot. So the first part of the scene in the show, they have, I think, 4 different coverages, a couple different wides, one shooting in and then one shooting through the cupboard, showing the rest of the living room. That's a lot of work to do by yourself. So I thought I'd just do 2 coverages. So this is the first shot we're gonna recreate. It's unique because we have 2 different versions of it, one in the dark and one with the twinkle lights on. So we need to make sure that we expose it properly so that you can see my face not only in the dark, but when the twinkle lights are on. So what do we see? It's a medium close-up, slightly in front of her, off to the side, maybe just a little bit below her face, shooting her into the cupboard. The shadows are very dark, and it seems like there's just one single light shooting onto the side of her face. It's a nice warm light. The left side of her face, as well as the background, is completely dark. So let's set up the room first. From the show, we know that she's in this wooden cupboard looking at the lights. I have all white walls in here, so I had to get creative. I went online and I found this peel and stick wallpaper that looks like wooden tiles. It was worth it, it worked great. Very strong glue smell. Felt a little funny while smelling it, but it worked great in my opinion. So I just cut off a section and put it on the wall. And then I framed my shot around it. As you know, the scene is very dark, so we wanna get rid of all the white. I bought these blackout blinds from Home Depot and I just put them on a C-stand or I hang them on the wall. It works so great. So I put some behind me and then I put one in front of me as well, just as we start to shape the shot. So in the show, when she's talking to the lights, they don't just flick on, they sort of fade in and out. And I was like, how the heck am I gonna do that? So what I did was I found this plug-in dimmer and I plugged the lights into the dimmer and I was able to sort of fade them on and fade them off. Like I said, I do everything alone. So when I was acting in the scene, as I was talking to the lights, my left hand was down underneath me and it was fading the lights on and fading it off. See, I can do this. I can't do that. So now that we had a rough setup of the environment, I put the camera in its position and then we made our final touches.
I used my Sony G Master 24-70 and I kind of kept doing test shots to see which was the best distance. I found that somewhere between 35 and 40 was good.
I knew that the lighting was gonna really accentuate the shadows of the bubbles in the wall, so I took this little tool and flattened out the bubbles as best as I could. I decided early on that the only light I was gonna use was going to be a single key light with a lantern attachment. I have my Aperture 300X, which is my favorite light ever. I think bicolor lights are the best, the most versatile. Although if budget is an issue for you, then definitely use daylight and you can always buy gels and put them in front and manipulate the light temperature that way.
Oh, looks pretty good.
I thought it looked cool. It seemed like it matched really well. And now comes the twinkle light test. Oh. I found that warm twinkle lights would be too warm, whereas the cold ones, I could tweak the color temperature in post. I just felt like this looked better overall. And that was basically it. It was just 2 lights. So let's just take a look at what we did.
You ready? You like that?
Honestly, I can live with that. That's good enough for me. And that's only 1 shot. Time to do the reverse angle. This is gonna be a little trickier. So now let's break down the next shot. So what do we see? Her face is lit up by the twinkle lights, so we have that in the foreground. We have something dirtying up the front of the lens on the bottom of the frame. On the left side, we have the door of the cupboard, which has a little bit of light splash on it. Just above her head on the roof of the cabinet, we have a bit of light splash as well. And then behind her head, there's 1 or 2 twinkle lights glowing, and then some more twinkle lights in the far background. Of course, we have the window, and then in the back, it looks like there's a chair with a beam of yellow light. My living room looks nothing like this. This was a lot of work, a lot of trial and error. This took me a day, but I came up with something that I could live with and I thought looked pretty close given the space that I have here. If you look at the shot, there's a window in the background and there's a bit of space. And the only place I could shoot that was from in the bathroom inside my living room. First thing I did was set up the camera just so we can get a sense of how close we were, what kind of angles we had, and how much we needed to manipulate the space. So in the scene, she's in a cabinet, right? You can see there's light going off a piece of wood above her head. So at first I put a collapsible table over my head and I just sort of played around to see if that would work. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But then I remembered, I had these old pieces of wood that were my shelves hidden underneath my stairs. And what do you know, they were perfect. But how I stabilized them, that was not perfect. It's not how. It's how it looks. I balanced this piece of wood on an old tripod and a music stand, and honestly, it was genius. You can kind of get a sense of what it's like when you do these things by yourself. It's chaotic, it's not perfect, but you just find a way. So then the next thing that we had to do was to put some negative fill inside the bathroom to block off all the bouncing light. Next, we plugged in the light. Luckily, we had an outlet there and just did a little test to make sure the outlet was working. Then we fine-tuned a little bit with the height of the wood above my head and found a great spot. Then I realized on the left side of the frame, we have the door to this cupboard that we have to figure out. But luckily, I had more wood. So then I grabbed another piece of wood. At first I started playing around with the positions of it until it matched the frame as best I could. Once the wood was in a rough position, then I had to start to figure out what I was gonna do with the background. In this shot, there's the window just past her face. That's roughly where mine was, so that kind of worked out well. But I also had a door window on the far left side of the frame. So at first I tried hanging some curtains on it. That didn't quite work. Ultimately, what I did was I put wallpaper over the door and over the window. So A, it blacked out the light, and B, it covered the door so it looked like it was part of the wall. I bought some more thin curtains. They were a cream color because I noticed in the shot itself there was a lot of creams and browns and earth tones, and I used those on top of the main window. I pointed out a few things off the top. One of them was the door had a little bit of light splash on it, so I put a little aperture MC light on top of the piece of wood on top of my head, and I shined it on the piece of wood to give it a bit of light. The next thing I hung were the twinkle lights in the background. As I mentioned earlier, in the back left of the frame there's a chair, so I put the chair there. Luckily, I had something quite similar. I grabbed my Aperture 300X with a spotlight attachment, and I created this tight little sunlight strip that shone right on the light. There's a little twinkle light, a green light behind Winona Ryder's head. So I managed to sort of hang one just behind. It's not as blurry. They worked fine. And at the bottom of the frame, if you can remember, there's this big black spot. So what I wanted to do was create that dirty foreground as if we're looking through something. So I just took a piece of cloth on top of another one of my tripods and just put it a little bit in front of the frame, and it did the trick fine. And then I also added one more MC light to get a little bit of light splash on the piece of wood above my head. So now let's look at the final shot. And I should have stopped there, but I didn't. We moved on because we couldn't not do the iconic letter scene. So let's move on to part 2. So part 2 consisted of basically 6 different shots. Knowing that we were moving chronologically in the scene, I decided to shoot this shot first. So this is the first one we're gonna break down. What do we see? We're shooting from along the wall. She's slightly elevated. We can see that we're lit from behind off the left side of the shot, and we get a little bit of glare on the bottom right of the frame. We also have twinkle lights from the back wall into focus and out of focus. And behind her, it's a little bit dark, and just off her right elbow on the left side of the frame, it gets bright again. One thing to note as well is that she is very dark herself. First thing we had to do, wallpaper my whole dang wall. I picked an even line to go across, and then I tightened the frame based on how high and how low I went. And then once the camera was in frame, then I hung the twinkle lights just approximately where I thought they should go. As I mentioned before, she's backlit in the shot, and her body is very much a shadow. You can't see any detail on it. So I wanted to grab another curtain to create some negative fill to really take out all the light so that I looked more like a silhouette. I covered up all the windows, and I just kind of got a sense of what it looked like in the lighting of the scene. I found that having a light right behind my head was a little too hot. What I did was I took my Aperture 300X and I shined it on the curtain, which gave a bit of bounce, but also a bit of bright contrast behind me. In the shot, there is a difference in depth. I had to create contrast and edges, and I did it through light. I was playing with a 50mm prime lens. The one I have is the G Master 1.2. Incredible lens. And I like to use it because of the shallow depth of field. But ultimately, I couldn't quite get the right angle because of my confined space, so I ended up throwing the G Master 24-70 back on. But I realized because of the lens that I was using, I was gonna have to cover the back wall with wallpaper. In the shot, you can see there's a bright spot on the bottom right of the frame, and that's presumably coming from the window, and I wanted to get that a bit. So what I did was I grabbed one of my Nanlite Pavo tubes, put it behind me. Not only did I get a bit of light on the back of my head to separate myself from the background, but I got a bit of shine on the wall, which helped with that contrast. And then that was basically it. I just sort of fine-tuned the twinkle light's height a little bit, the tightness of the spotlight. Since I was painting this wallpaper, I had one shot at doing this. It was a little high, but it was what I did, and I went with it, and it turned out great. So let's review one final time looking at all the lights in this shot.
Okay, let's shoot.
So this is shot number 2. This is what we're replicating. As you can see, it's basically the same shot as before. The foreground's very dark. We have a little bit of light splash on the right side of the frame and a little bit more on the left side of the frame as well. You can see her hand prying open the can. All I did was lower the camera, kept it in the exact same position roughly, and then I opened my paint jar a few times in front of the camera, and that was basically it. I didn't really change anything.
Was it that easy? Let's go to the next shot. We're gonna do the wide of the wall. This is the one I'm really excited about.
This is the next shot we're trying to recreate. So what do we see? We have a wide shot off to the side, shooting slightly up. We have Joyce in the foreground. We have twinkle lights hanging along the wall and just above it. And we have a couch in the background as well. And we have like a little bit of light off to the side on the right side of the frame. This is where my limitations come in. I don't really have space for a couch, and my space isn't nearly as wide as this. So I just decided from the beginning to just have it as a plain wall with letters on it, and I just lived with that. I moved the camera roughly into the position that I wanted to shoot in, and I realized very quickly that I had to cover the other side of the wall with wallpaper. So that's what I did. So once the walls were covered, first thing I had to do was hang the twinkle lights. I found these little hooks that screw into the wall at Home Depot and hung the lights on them, and they worked great. I realized that these lights don't match the shutter speed of my camera, so you'll notice a bit of a flicker here. The lights aren't usually lit in most of the scenes, so when they are, I adjusted the shutter speed, and we'll get into that later. I knew I had one shot at this, so I checked everything, I made sure I was filming, I made sure it was in focus, and I went for it. I think I have pretty neat handwriting, if I do say so myself. And now we have the set finished for the rest of the scenes. So it was less about doing setups and more about coverages from this point. So the hardest part was over. The next shot is basically the same as the previous one. The only difference is that the subject is in the center of the frame out of focus, and it's slightly more punched in as opposed to me being off to the side. So that was that. That was pretty easy. We just moved the camera. I didn't really shoot much audio for this part. I did that when I was shooting towards my face. So this was pretty easy. I just sort of stood there. I did say some words, but I never used any audio from these clips. Yeah, it looks pretty cool, man. So now let's move on to shooting the individual letters. This was tricky and tedious, but it was very fun. But remember what I said earlier, the shutter speed did not match the light, so there was a lot of these light flickers. So I brought the shutter speed down to 1/15, I think, and that fixed all the flickering of the light, and then I adjusted my exposure to make sure that it was bright enough. The tricky part was, how do I make one light appear without the other ones turning on? So what I did was I took some gaff tape and tediously unscrewed each bulb, and then inside covered the little LED bit, screwed it back on, and did that for each letter that I shot. In the end of the scene in the show, it says run. It spells out R-U-N, but the N is shot from below. I just changed the angle, shot up, got my focus right, and that was the end of the wall. And finally, we have the last shot of the day, and you get to also see some amazing acting, if I do say so myself, you know. This is the final shot we're trying to recreate. So what do we see? Joyce is just slightly off center. We got a medium wide shot. She's backlit by this window. So you can see a bit of that light on her left cheek. But if you look at her right cheek, there's like this warm orange light shooting there. So that's something else to point out. You can see the texture of the wall, and then it gets slowly darker and darker. I was not as detail oriented in this one. All I wanted to do was show the contrast between the window on the left third and then have sort of darkness on the other 2/3 of the frame. I just shifted the camera to an adjacent wall because of the window. The next thing I did was I took 2 strips of the blackout blind and I hung them along the wall so it covered the left 2/3 of the frame. I didn't have much more wallpaper, so I just sort of took the easy way out here. I think I captured its essence. I thought the light was a little bright, so I wanted to diffuse it a bit more, so I actually double hung 2 of the see-through curtains. I kept that aperture special light shining on the curtain, which gave the feeling of sunlight being diffused through the window. What I ended up doing next was tackling the 2 different lightings on my face. So I took a little aperture MC light, turned it to orange or like a warm yellow, but I had it on the right side of my face. Then I took my Nanlite Pavo tube, put that on a very cool light that kind of matched the daylight that was coming in. And the one final thing I did in the end was I took an extra aperture MC light and I put it just on top of the camera. The point of that, and it's something that I always do, is to have a bit of a catch light so that when you're watching, there's just a little texture in the subject's eyes, so they pop just a little bit more. And that was it. So let's take another look at all the lights here. Let's shoot this thing. Because I don't have the tools or skill set to shoot in like a certain aspect ratio, what I like to do, and I've done this in my previous videos. Cinematographers, please don't come at me. It's just what I do, I'm sorry. What I'll do is I'll take my shot and I'll put an adjustment layer over it and I'll adjust the top and bottom crop to like 5% so it matches the reference frame. There's way better ways of doing it, more effective ways, but that's just the way that I do it. It's the easiest. One of the last things I want to talk about is the sound effects and the music. I found a song through artlist.io. This is not sponsored. I just use them for all of my music and sound effects. I think I have like 5 different layered sound effects that created that sound of the light bulbs. And that was it. So one last time, let's take a look at all the shots side by side. Be gentle, okay? This was a lot of work, but I had so much fun doing it. I'm actually sad that it's over. I know it's not perfect. I did the best I could with what I had, and I did it all alone too. So give me like a little bit of extra points for that. And go create, and be kind to yourself and love yourself because I love you. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what I should do next, and of course, subscribe.